Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here is your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hello, everyone. This is Karen Robinson. I'm the Executive Director of Heal, Thrive, Dream. And tonight I have my very first guest on a podcast as well as a video for the course titled Suicide Assessments. So my guest this evening, his name is Miguel Sierra, and I will get him to tell you more about himself now.
Well, thank you for having me, Karen. Nice to see you again, even if it's virtually.
Likewise.
A little bit about myself. So I'm 3 years now retired, Army veteran. Did 10 years in the Army as a suicide prevention coordinator, behavioral health specialist, and resilience coordinator, provider resilience coordinator. So I got a little bit of experience talking about suicide prevention, mainly in the military for those 10 years. And since I retired, I've been also working with different community groups and churches and teenage empowerment groups, speaking on suicide and not just suicide prevention, but also how to live life. You know what I mean? Like not just not how to be depressed, but also how to live happily. So I think one of the major keys of preventing suicide and preventing depression is finding ways to live life fully. You know, so I do a lot of that stuff. Ever since, for the last 3 years, I've been doing a lot of that. Originally from Dominican Republic, grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, joined the Army a little bit late at 29. In the 10 years, I worked in Fort Belvoir in Virginia, Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, and Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. And now I am retired and doing what I want to do back in Virginia, so back in the DC area. So this is where I'm at now. Not the best person to speak about myself, so that's all I got for now.
That's pretty good. I want to just make note too to tell whoever's listening, our audience, that you've never been a client of mine, never a patient of mine. We've worked together, and that's how we know each other.
Oh yeah, no.
I just want people think I'm exploiting my clients to come on, and talk about themselves.
Oh no, we're coworkers there. No, not at all.
Yeah. So
Billboard days.
Do you connect with people still around basketball? I know you.
Yes. Yeah, I played in Belleville for 5 years, and actually, basketball in so many ways was kind of like a gateway for me to talk about suicide prevention and reach different units and reach different demographics of people that otherwise would have shut it completely down. I think one of my biggest attributes is the approach I took to suicide prevention, or the conversation about it. It was very casual. I don't know if you ever came to one of my briefs back at Bellwood, but I crack a lot of jokes. You know what I mean? Like people would laugh, people would smile. It doesn't have to be like a sad, down, let's stop death from happening type of vibe. And I think when I sat around in different basketball circles, the conversation will come about, especially in the military community, the conversation will come about mental health or behavioral health. And it's always like, don't go there. The big old stigma about, you're going to lose your clearance. Nobody's going to trust you. You're going to think you're crazy. You're going to get promoted, all that stuff. And I will step in the most casual way and playful way possible and explain to them that's all BS. That's not how it goes. So I would say that being an athlete definitely helped me reach people that if I would have came to them as a behavioral health specialist, or had I been a counselor or a chaplain or whatever it is, they wouldn't have heard me the same.
I believe that's true too.
Yeah.
Especially if you approach them in suit and tie.
Yeah.
And snake shoes. Did I ever tell you basketball is my favorite sport?
Nah, I didn't know that.
I played in high school. I mean, we were a Class C team. Now this is Class D. But I played.
I must say we didn't have the best record ever for Belvoir either, man. So it's not we were the best team, but we were definitely a family. But we struggled some years.
Yeah, but it's a really fun game. Really fun game.
Yeah, agreed.
So, tell me how you got interested in teaching suicide prevention in the first place. Was it because you lost someone to suicide? How did you get interested?
Well, a complex answer to that. When it came to suicide prevention directly, Ms. Miller Frank, she was still is the suicide prevention coordinator for Belleville for the installation. And when I was a young specialist, I had just got to Belleville maybe like 3 months prior, and she came to the office asking for help. She needed somebody to teach us suicide prevention class to a battalion. It was like 500 people there too, and I, my NCO volunteered me. You know how it goes, and I went.
Where the NCO? I guess you.
No. Not then. I was a specialist then. It was 2E5s and me. And they were small little dudes, in stature, so they tried to bully me around because I was twice their size, and that felt good, like trying to tell a young specialist what to do, whatever. But I went in and I did the class, and it immediately clicked. Okay, and it clicked because as I was speaking through the slides, everything felt so relatable. Okay, so everything seemed so common sense, so much like it wasn't a class and more of a conversation. You know what I mean? Like me, myself, I'm a suicide survivor, right? So the approach that I took to the class and the things that I saw from the very first class, I saw a connection to myself, and a connection to my story and the story of people and friends of mine and family members of mine that I could just connect back to suicide prevention. Because again, like I said, like when it comes to talking about suicide, I prefer to talk about life and give people reminders of the things that are worth living for, whether it's your kids, whether it's goals that you may have, whether it's things that you haven't accomplished yet, things that you want to bounce back from, people that you want to make proud, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like I think reminding people of that is way more important than trying to stop somebody from killing themselves. Yeah. Without taking away from the fact that there are people that get to that point where it's like first aid, like CPR for somebody that's suicidal. I get that, but I think in general, if we can create a life that's full, that's full of more laughter than tears, teach people about perspective and how to see the good in life and how to compare the good with the bad and see what outweigh each other. You know what I'm saying? I think that's more important. And from that first class that I did, it just felt natural to me to just talk to people about it and answer questions about it. When I was in school, in 60th X-ray school, behavioral health school, whatever, in the Army, we touched on suicide prevention. It was like a class, but it wasn't something that I knew I could do. It was something that they told. Nobody told me that you could be a suicide prevention coordinator, for example. It just kind of fell in my lap, and it was like a perfect fit. From there, I just kept doing it. I would reach out to Millie and ask her, you need my help. And eventually she just, I was doing classes like every month, every week, went to the assist class, assist training, and learned more and more. And, you kind of start, it's like a nice little rabbit hole you can dive into when it comes to suicide prevention and resilience. At least in the military, it is real easy to just kind of and that becomes your everyday. That's how I got into it. But I've always cared about people. I'm somewhat of an empath, you know what I mean? So I like to take up people's problems and their burdens. Something that's not always a good thing, by the way. But I think I have a genuine care for people's well-being enough that suicide prevention is just something that comes natural to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Where do you think you got your empathy from? Where did that? Is one of your parents very empathetic, or is God?
Yeah, well, my family is very, it's a really large family and a loving family, and I grew up in a home where not even a home, but my whole family. If one person's going through something, it's kind of like a family issue, that we all put together. So, and I think naturally, just from birth, man, like I remember being a little kid and like being super emotional watching like an American Tale when the little cartoon about the mice that came from Russia. You remember that? No, nobody remember that movie?
No, I know I saw that, but that was way back in the day.
Way back. But because I was young. I'm trying to tell you, it was like even back then I was like super emotional and the little mouse got lost and I don't know. I've always cared about people enough to really invest myself in their well-being. You know, and I don't really gotta know you. You know what I'm saying? I just care about the world in general. I know everybody's not like that. I know it's gotten me in situations where I've been overwhelming myself.
Mhm.
And, you know, part of growing up, I'm 42 years old now. So learning how to balance that and how to step away from situations and scale back on certain things and take care of myself and put myself first is part of the whole process also. I feel like every day I learn new things about myself. I learn how to move differently and better and healthier. I don't know. Definitely care about people, and I don't want to change that about me. But I know in caring about myself, it's also caring about people because you can't pour from an empty cup, you know. So
Yeah, it's just so much easier to tell other people, hey, do this, try this. I
yeah,
started
but
this.
when you look in the mirror, yeah, because you know the funny thing about that is a lot of times, even when it comes to suicide prevention, I say this, right? Like for myself, I deal with depression. I've been dealing with depression since I was about 16, 17 years old, you know, and I'm not even gonna go down the rabbit hole right now, but it will, you know.
It's not really a rabbit hole. I think that's what we're talking about.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like when you talk about like the specifics of why I fell into a depression early on in my, you know, as a teenager, you learn from experience and applying, you know, when I see somebody, almost everybody I talk to is younger than me, or has been, or is dealing with situations that I've been through. I live a full life. I got stories for days, you know what I mean? And almost everything people bring to me is something that I've already kind of dealt with.
Mhm.
Not always in a positive way, not always in the best way, but I got experience on it. So it's so much easier to apply what I've been through and not tell people what to do, but kind of give them a little bit of guidance and to what to expect and how to move and yo, you got different choices and things like that or whatever, that it helps me. And because I'm a self-reflective person, in turn, it helps me to reflect back on my own situations and it helps me move better, if that makes sense, you know? So I think I learned a lot about myself through helping other people deal with depression and suicidal thoughts, you know?
I heard you pretty clearly that you prefer talking about the good that's come around having depression and deciding that life can be beautiful and enjoyable. Does that mean telling your what led to your thoughts of suicide? Is that off the table?
No, not at all. No. Okay, so my logic is this, right? I believe there are three fundamental pieces to emotional health, okay? Especially for somebody struggling with depression or struggling with suicidal thoughts, right? You gotta want to help yourself. So you got that self-help, that self-motivation. You need the professional help, you know, so you need a counseling, psychiatry, or if you're religious, you know, a chaplain, somebody to professionally guide you through the dark times. And then there's people like me who are like your support system, friends, families, close ones, people that care about you enough to remind you of the good things. You know what I mean? I feel like remind you of the good things without minimizing your struggles, because that's very important too. It's not taking away from your pain or not saying that your pain is not valid, but if you got the blinders on and all you can see is the negative, it's important for you to have someone there to remind you of the positives also. That's not all that there's to it, but I think it's also it's an important lane, an important piece of it, you know. And I feel like when I teach my classes, because it's not counseling, that's my focus, or that's my lane, if that makes sense. But I do tell my story all the time. For me, I tried to, you know, die by suicide when I was 23 years old, and the culmination of a bunch of stuff that I was struggling with. Um, I came to the United States when I was 13 years old, from Dominican Republic, after my parents got divorced, coming to a new country at 13, trying to fit in. We came and we moved to Cleveland, Ohio, which wasn't the most diverse city in the world. There was blacks on one side, whites on another side, and then Latino sprinkled somewhere in there, you know what I mean? And I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. It was very difficult times for me growing up. I just wanted to fit in. So I tried to fit in. I tried to assimilate to the people in my neighborhood and do what they did so I can just blend in and not be noticed. But at freaking 6'6", you know, I think about 6'5", 6'4" at that time, you stick out no matter what. So I struggle a lot with identity issues, with just being able to be confident in myself without looking for validation from other people. My mother, bless her soul, she the hardest worker in the world, but we were in a situation where a single mom with 3 kids barely spoke English. So she was working 2, 3 jobs. She was never really home. It was just me, my brother, and my sister there. So you kind of, in a new country, learning the culture, learning the ways, being a teenager alone is difficult enough. In a new country, in a new culture, a new environment, it was 10 times harder. And I think by the time I hit 23, I was already in college. I had a daughter. I was trying to balance school, fatherhood, co-parenting, and it just became so much. It was so much going on that I just crumbled. And I tried to end my life by taking some pills. Took a bunch of like muscle relaxants and so whatever. Because they were prescription, so I thought they were gonna do the trick, but all they did was put me to sleep. Like they didn't really do much. But I thought I was going. Your body's all tingly or whatever, and I thought I was gone. And woke up. My girlfriend found me and called the cops and took me to the hospital. And that's one of the that was an experience that opened my eyes to how much your decisions affect other people. You know what I mean? And for somebody like me, that's big because I'm a family person. I'm a family man. And I remember calling my mother from the hospital, from the psych ward. And it wasn't a ward. It was like a little building on the side of the hospital or whatever. And I remember calling her like at midnight saying, yo, this happened. This is where I'm at. I'm fine. Come see me in the morning if you want to, whatever. And I never forget, like I could hear her car like pulling up like maybe an hour later outside. She slept in the parking lot and she stayed there. You know what I mean? I remember looking, I couldn't call her. You know what I mean? Like, well, because, it's my mom. So,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then the next morning, 7 a.m., she's right there waiting for me. Like, and you understand, like, yo, I could never do this again. And that, I didn't need anything else after that for me to know that I could never get that low again. Because that was an eye opener, but then you start thinking about how, okay, that's my mom. What about my daughter?
I know.
What about my sister? What about my brother? My father called me, my uncles, everybody started calling me. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, like you didn't understand how that decision that I made, and I won't say it was a selfish decision, but it was very much thinking about one situation in my life, you know what I'm saying? Or one of the things that were happening in my life without thinking about, again, the positives. And the people that care about me, people that put smiles on my face, and people that I put smiles on their faces, So that was very deep, emotionally carries me through this day. I had dark moments. I have times where I feel defeated or I feel, depression. I compare it to alcoholism, man. That thing sometimes it just doesn't go away. You just gotta like a one day at a time thing. You gotta just kind of find the positives and daily things to keep you moving. You know what I mean? So never again, no matter how low I get, will I attempt to take my life, because I know how it will impact the pain that it will bring to. And now I got more kids. You know what I'm saying? I got a wife now. You know what I'm saying? So the pain that it will bring on them.
Lots of little critters in your house.
Oh my God, that's so annoying though, but I love them. But I will never put that on them. And I think working in behavioral health, you see what suicide does to children and to communities and to even coworkers, man. That suicide affects people, community, society in general. So that ain't for me. Suicide ain't for me.
Suicide's not for me either. Well, there. Now that we made a pact that we wouldn't kill ourselves.
Yeah, that ain't it, right? That's not the way.
I just had the scene of your mom coming to the hospital, like, just totally like.
I'll never forget that.
Traumatized. Did she take off her shoe and start beating you with it?
No. Yeah, see, my mom is like me, like the most caring woman in the world.
Oh, so she's very soft. Okay.
She's a strong woman, but she's that when it comes to her kids, I'm her firstborn too. Again, I started thinking about how that must have felt for her. Like if I heard right now one of my kids, God forbid, died, I would have been devastated. You know what I'm saying? So the pain that it would bring on them. And I will never put that on them. You know what I mean? So never again, no matter how low I get, will I attempt to take my life, because I know how it will impact the pain that it will bring to. And now I got more kids. So the calls me with something like that. I don't even know how she drove that night.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like how she managed to do that. So, and I remember like the room that I was in, I could see she drove a nice, pretty decent car back then. And I could see the little HD lights hitting my window, and I knew it was her out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could hear the car, and and she sat there. She sat in that car until let her in the next morning. And I'm like,
Talk about guilt.
you know what I mean? Like, and I remember telling her, I said, yo, I didn't do this, thinking about the pain that I would have caused you. That didn't even cross my mind at that moment. And for that, I asked for her forgiveness, because there's no way in hell, especially as a father, myself, put my mother through that, and put my kids through that. My daughter was young enough to not even know what was going on, but
She still would have grown up without her dad.
Exactly. So, nah.
But you have a grandbaby now from her?
Yeah, I got a whole granddaughter now. So, yeah, she's in Orlando. So, yeah. Leah.
Awesome.
I'm old now. I'm officially old.
Officially old. For sure. Yeah, so I appreciate telling me the story. I didn't know your story. I knew you had an attempt because you're pretty open about it. When did you decide to be open about it? Like, was it during your talks during prevention, or was it before that?
Nah, I did my entire career in the Army. I never told that story.
Okay.
I never told a story. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until 2017, right after I started doing my classes on the civilian side, that I even felt the need to do it. When I was in the Army, I felt like the format of the classes that I taught, which is not even different than what I do now, but it reached people, it reached soldiers and the military community alike in that way that I did not have to share my story. When I started talking to younger kids, to teenagers, to young adults, I did a class for the Marion Barry Leadership Institute in DC one time for their employees, so it's summer workers or whatnot. They were like from 18 to 22. Mm-hmm. And I actually did a class on team building for them. And I saw so much similarities in the things that I struggled with as a young man, as a teenager even, that I went back. I came back from that class, I remember, and I talked to one of my very good friends, my boy Rob, and he's the one that told me. He said, you know what? Sometimes, man, like our stories, because I was saying, I wanted to share my story with them to like make them understand that you can overcome this shit.
Right.
And he's told me, he was like, sometimes our stories are not ours to keep.
I know.
Our stories are, meant to help people. And sharing our pain and our struggles, man, help people, and that's when I decided to do it. But it was very liberating for me also to kind of just put that out there. It's like a big weight comes off your shoulder, because it's not like you're hiding it when you teach a class, but you don't want to make it about you. You know what I'm saying? And I still don't bring it up in classes if I don't see a need for it. Because sometimes the classes take life of their own, and the conversations start happening, and you kind of just delegating and mediating the debates and stuff like that. But every once in a while, you gotta remind some people that, listen, man, like, you see me, big, strong dude with all the confidence in the world. It wasn't always like this. I've been there, man. It happens to all of us, and it's okay.
People hear it.
Yeah,
when that happens.
They do. But it's a time and a place for everything too, though. It's a time and a place for your story to be shared. I like the fact that I put it out there on paper. I should have wrote the story and put it in a blog. Since then, the blog's been canceled, but I think it's on my Facebook page somewhere. I know it is, but it's something that is kind of like you can use as a reference point when somebody approaches me. I can direct them to it or give it to them, and not try to be pushy about it. If that makes sense. I like that it's there if anybody needs it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Really cool. Sure. Really cool. Not really cool happened, but really cool that you now have this tangible story that you can share and bless the world with, because it does.
But it is cool though. Like, it's life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how life goes. And I think you gotta go through the darkness to appreciate the light. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here for a reason. Huh?
I might know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to though. Like, It's okay. I think the fact that I went through that at 23, my early adulthood has made me a better person, a better father, a better husband, a better son, a better friend. So, not saying that I'm glad it happened, because that's a lot of pain and a lot of hurdles that I had to get over to get where I'm at now. But I definitely appreciate who I am now as a man and as a person, so it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. When I knew that you were open with your suicide story, this sounds odd, I was a little jealous.
Which
Right? You never heard that
I
one yet.
explain that one.
Because therapists are training, not necessarily social workers, but therapists in general have so much training on not opening up.
Mhm.
And that's not my personality. So, and plus when I have clients, I like to have genuine relationships. And so I don't think it works very well if you expect a client to tell you everything and you share nothing. I just don't think
Yeah.
that flows. So I
Yeah.
do share some things, but my suicide attempt was never one of them.
Mm.
So I am 48 years old, and this is the first time I've disclosed it. In the chapter that I wrote in a book that's coming out in October is the first time I told my story.
Mm.
And almost no one knows about it. Like, I've told my husband, and I told my aunt. And I told my aunt when I was a teenager. Because I was not even a teenager during my attempt. I was under 12. And I did the same thing. I took a bunch of pills. Tylenol, which is supposed to be lethal.
Yeah, if you
You know
take
what saved my
enough.
life? I think they were no name brand.
Hey, listen. Hey, again, everything happens for a reason. That's
Yeah.
that would have been. They told me if I would have taken Tylenol, it would have been a slow, slow and painful little. That's not cool, man. So I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're
I
okay.
took a couple handfuls, and I don't even remember if it was 2 or 3. Like, I don't remember that part. I
Mhm.
remember going to sleep thinking, oh, I'm just going to die peacefully in my sleep. And I was
Yeah.
not a happy camper at first when I woke up, but then I knew, okay, maybe there's a bigger purpose here. I started to see a little bit of the light, like you talked about.
Awesome, yo.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you get to share your story too, man. I know that's
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, it was really, I couldn't believe how it felt. So
yeah.
now it's in the book. Last night I taped it for the course, but a very brief part of it.
Mm.
And the first time it's ever been on Facebook is on your post. And I want you to tell the listeners why you put that post up there. I mean, I know it's Suicide Prevention Month, but that was really, and that was funny, we both were writing powerful at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
that got you to do that?
Honestly, I saw the post. I saw the question on my timeline, and again, yeah, my reason for sharing my story is, it can help someone. I know people look at me on social media, and I'm always cracking jokes, or I come across very,
Nothing is wrong with your life.
no, yeah, well, no, not that, but I'm very open about everything, and
I
very
know,
much
but
like
people can
I
take
have
that.
an, yeah, well, but I gotta share my pains too, like virtual freaking kindergarten, you know what I mean, things like that. I talk about stuff that is not all fun and games, but I feel like there's power in that too, you know what I mean, just kind of putting it out there and coming across as a real person. So again, my logic in sharing and the question was on Facebook, if you would have completed your suicide, how long would it have been since you have been dead, or something like that? It was a question, and I reposted the question, and I put on top of the question, and it would have been 19 years for me. And again, I did it to just, I knew you're gonna get some couple of, I'm glad you're here, thank you for being here, but I counted it, and it was 38 other people.
38.
It was 38 other people in the comments that shared how long they would have been dead by now. 38.
That was incredible to me.
From all walks of life, from
Oh,
all different races, from all different positions or statuses, so whatever it is you want to call it. It was. I was shocked at some of them, to be honest.
I was going
And
to
then
ask you that. Yeah.
I was shocked at the transparency. But when I came out of the army, I got the t-shirt on right now. It says courage is contagious. I started a campaign to kind of destigmatize mental health and help people. If you need help, go get help. Nobody's gonna judge you. Don't worry about people looking at you like you're a weak person, a crazy person. If you need help, get it. If you break your freaking arm, you're gonna go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel a pain in your side, if you feel a pain in your foot and your leg, whatever, you're gonna go to the doctor. If you feel that pain in your heart, bro, if you feel that pain in your soul, go see somebody, go get some help because it's there, right? So I was surprised at some of the people and how many people commented. I was also filled with like a sense of joy to know that so many people overcame that struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like it was to me, it was beautiful. People would say, comment, and then friends of friends that didn't know, they would comment under their comment like, yo, I'm glad you're here. Like, it was beautiful, yo. I thought it was beautiful. And it's probably, I don't know what, like 12 years on Facebook now, whatever, but I think out of all the posts that I've ever had outside like the ones for the birth of my kids and stuff like that, when I got married, that post was like, it definitely was something special for me because it's a real snapshot of life and community. You know what I mean? Like one of those things that it doesn't matter like how somebody comes across on social media or even when you see them in the street or whatever you know about them, you don't know what somebody's been through. You don't know what somebody's been fighting. So treat everybody with the same respect and compassion and sympathy that you would want somebody to show you based on your own life and your own struggles,
Yeah, and being kind.
That's it. It's not that hard, man. It's not that hard, yo.
Shouldn't be. Yeah.
It's not that. It shouldn't be. You're right. But that was a powerful post. It was crazy, right? Like I know, right? It was overwhelming a little bit, like how 6 years, 3 years, 30 years, 40 years. It was crazy the amount of people that.
Easy.
Some people went down to the days, like 3 years, 5 months, 4 days, like so. So it's vivid, and it's something that is impactful in a person's life. Man, yeah, that post, man.
People were parents, our
Mm-hmm.
parents. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it was pretty powerful, and it did something that
It's overwhelming.
Well, maybe, but it was like I also just thought it was very beautiful that people were willing to confess it, I guess, for lack of a better word, because it's, even though the stigma is not as bad as it used to be, it's still not cool to go around saying, hey, there was this one time I tried to kill myself. It's not really that cool to go around saying it, but people were being honest. And so that was really, that's what, where the thought came to invite you on here too, because, I think you've done some good work. And
thank you.
yeah, and the reason I wanted to do a suicide class on my mastermind hub is I actually lost someone recently to suicide as well. Not
sorry to hear that.
Thank you. I can't say how, or who, or where.
I understand.
Online, but it was the second one. The other one wasn't that long ago, and it was someone who. So I'm telling you this a little bit because I want to get your ideas, see if there's an idea you would have that would help in the future. So okay. I think I'm really good at a good therapist and can help a lot of people that are feeling suicidal. I feel like I can instill hope in them and help them. I teach a lot of people, like a lot of dads too, like, I know you were in a really bad spot, but you have children. Do you know what the legacy of children is for parents to kill themselves? It's not pretty. You're basically giving your family a legacy of future suicide attempts. And I teach this stuff. But I had one person one time, when you looked in his eyes, they were empty, right? And he had a little girl. And so I kept talking about it, but it just wasn't hitting. And then later he did go on to kill himself. And I sort of had that feeling, and I think I had sort of had this feeling with this other person too, because the relationship I had with them, I sort of kept my distance in a way. I think I kind of, I don't want to say smelled it, but my intuition was, and I I really tried to help this person, and everybody thought that worked, but I think I had my little spidey sense going. Yeah. So have you had that experience of trying to help someone and there just doesn't seem like anybody's home? Like they just are so like beyond apathetic. Like just empty?
Not personally, not like, someone directly to me, but through the experience, again, through the experience of working in behavioral health and the chances I've had to talk to docs and stuff like that, you understand. And I mean, and just the logical progression of depression, right? And suicidal thoughts. Like, I think, I always say this in my classes, like, listen, like the reality of it is like you can't help everybody. There are people that are going to do it. I knew a not close friend of mine at all, but a friend of mine in school, his brother, in and out of homes, institutions, and locked facilities and stuff like that for like 6-7 years because of, depression and suicidal ideation. And, he learned the game enough to get like a all clear bill or, a healthy bill from the doctor. And the first thing he did when he got out, like 25, 26 years old, so he died by suicide. I think that we have to do everything that we can to help people, obviously, in our power. I feel like as human beings, it's our responsibility to, if you see the signs, if you can help someone, you help them. If you know how to help them, at least, have the know-how or be educated enough to know where to send them or whatever, and that's what I try to preach in my classes. Nothing else, man. Here, say this number, 911, call them, you know what I mean? Like, just do that much. But at the end of the day, for us to walk around feeling that weight of somebody committing suicide and feeling like I should have done this, I should have done, what could I have done more? Like, that's a lot too.
And just to be clear, I don't feel that way because I know.
Yeah.
But their friends, their family, like,
Yeah.
Their friends did bring this person to get help, and so I think what you're saying is on the money. Like, people, all of us, family, friends, we can try our best.
But that's all we can do, though. And that's all we can do.
Today, people have the right to do what they want to do.
Yeah, and I tell my when I do classes, I tell people, I say, most times, depression, it's a downward spiral that can lead to suicidal ideations, right? And the hope is that we can notice signs or notice changes in people at a point where they still need or they still are receptive of help. But that's not always the case. And it doesn't even have to be. It's not a fault thing. You know what I mean? Like, if my problems are, for example, at home, right? My work family might not know what's going on because when I go to work, I can mask it a certain way or pretend a certain way. And yeah, I might give you clues here and there. You might notice certain things, but it's not enough to cause a real concern, because my issues at home. Now, at home, somebody should know there's a sign. You know what I mean? Or vice versa. It could be at work, and when I'm home, whatever it is, like, the hope is that we create a sense of community and compassion enough that when we do see the signs, no matter where it is, and no matter how small they are, no matter how quick they come and go, that we have a sense of confidence enough to ask that person, to engage that person. Okay, but that got to come with a sense of genuine care for that person, and that's where it gets tricky at. People, you gotta actually give a shit about other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if not,
get mad at you.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but if you care, you care. And when like if I come to you and I say, yo, you good? You all right? You know that I'm not gonna turn around and go gossip about you, or that I'm not just asking you so that I can like make fun of you or so feel better. Whatever it is, like, you gotta have like a sense of understanding that when I'm asking you that question, it's because I care about you, and that's built over time. No matter the relationship, it can be at work, it can be in the playground, it can be in the basketball court, it can be at the gym, whatever it is. Like, just be a genuine person, and you don't gotta go snooping around and trying to figure out if people are depressed or not, because that's gonna come to you eventually. You're gonna notice the changes, notice the things, and again, the hope is that you notice the signs at a point where that person is still receptive to getting help, because I mean, sometimes some people, they just they are where they are. You know what I mean? And
they feel like they've already tried. Sometimes people already feel like they've tried.
And that's it's harsh. It sounds crazy. It sounds messed up, but it's a reality of the situation. You know what I mean? And all we can do is hug that person, let them know, come on, I'm here if you need me. You know, this is what I think you should do. Do everything that we can in our power, and you know, in a scope of practice, I guess, or whatever. And that's it, yo. Not saying that it's easy, not saying that it's easy to digest, that it's not painful, but realistically, you know, it is what it is when it comes to that.
My last question, you're definitely welcome to talk more after if you have other things you want to say. So there may be some people watching this that in the future they'll try to help someone, and everything, despite everything they've tried, they lose that person. Or maybe they have lost that person and they feel a lot of guilt and keep questioning themselves and what they should have done differently. Do you have any words of wisdom for a person that might be going through that? Old, wise one.
I don't know about wisdom. But I'll say this. I feel like you got to find a way to live, right? To keep on living. Not breathing, but you keep on living. And I think it's very important for people in this situation, in those positions, to acknowledge their pain. You know what I mean? To write a letter, maybe, write a song, plant a tree. You know, find a way to honor. I mean, find a way to honor the person they lost and the guilt and pain they feel. Honor it. You know, acknowledge it. It's there. But now you got to find a way to keep on living, because that pain that you feel right now, the last thing you want to do is pass it on to somebody else.
Right.
Because that's what will happen, right? If you let yourself go in that guilt, that survival's guilt spiral or whatever it is, downward spiral, you're going to end up in that position where somebody's going to have to pick you up. And if you want to avoid that, you got to find a way to honor the legacy and life of the other person. You know, I know every person that I know that has died by suicide, they left behind people with beautiful stories about them. You know what I mean? So write a couple of beautiful stories about them. Make sure that you know, and mind you, my grandparents, for example, they didn't die by suicide, but my kids didn't get to know them. But you best believe that I tell them stories about my grandparents and crack jokes, and they see pictures and stuff like that. So honor them as best as you can. Don't you know, it's like what's that movie, Coco? I don't know if you've seen Coco. You know, it's a beautiful tradition, though, right?
I love that movie.
That Day of the Dead thing, man. You know, I grew up thinking that was like a scary holiday, but it's a beautiful holiday. It's a beautiful holiday.
It totally redid it in my head. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful holiday. So I think find a way to honor them and keep their memory alive, their legacy alive, because, you know, in the end, if they happen to be listening, I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to hear you tell positive stories about them. If they're sitting over your shoulder, for example, listening to you tell the stories, I'm sure they don't want to hear the sad stories. They want to hear some beautiful stories that you're telling about them. So, you know, you just got to keep on living. You just got to keep on living and find things to make you smile, because life is gonna, you know, put shit in front of you that's gonna make you cry, it's gonna make you angry, it's gonna frustrate you, it's gonna make you want to pull your hairs out. You know, it's gonna automatically, without you even trying, that's gonna come. That's just life, right? So you got to find things that keep you smiling. It doesn't gotta be big things. It doesn't gotta be like, you know, I will smile at a vacation in Fiji right now. You know what I'm saying? But that's not realistic for me. So I'll find smiles in tickling my kids, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like going to the gym or watching a good comedy show from the 80s or something, you know, the nostalgia or whatever it is, or playing games or riding bikes. I ride bikes now, 42 with a bad knees. You just see me out there. It's bad, but you know, find things that challenge you, find things that make you feel alive while acknowledging your pain, because that's important too. Don't mask it and try to make it seem like, I don't care, yo, it wasn't my fault. That you know, don't speak like that. Just acknowledge your pain. Surround yourself with positive, find joy, and surround yourself with people that make you smile. I think that's important too.
Finding a purpose.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. You know, you gotta find you do gotta find a purpose in life. You gotta find something to wake you up early every day. You know, and you know, and I said that I kind of in a figure of speech, but something that keeps you going.
What is
find
it
something
for
that keeps you going.
What is it
for me?
Yeah.
Ah, man, listen. I want to buy a big old house. My kid, I want to buy a big house and have that joker before the grandbabies at some point. And I'm sitting around giving dollars to my grandbabies that my grandfather did with me. that for me would be like, I'm looking for the house now, so I'm hoping to buy like my first home that I'm buying. It's gonna be a big old house so that I can have grandbabies there, and that's me,
That's
yo. Like,
beautiful.
yeah, that's what I see. Like, I look at my kids every day, and I project them as grown men already. You know what I mean? Like my boys and stuff like that, and I look forward to that.
No house on the beach?
Nah, oh, cause it'll be Hawaii, yo, and that's too far. Like I don't think my kids is, all my kids are not trying to go back to Hawaii. I'm gonna go back to Hawaii on my own. You know what I'm saying? But I can't live out. That's too far.
It's kind of a
But
trip there too.
if I could, I would. Trust me. But it's so far. So I think Virginia's home. I think I'm gonna stick around here. I think it'd be a beautiful place to like, finish raising my kids and then have my grandbabies come visit in the summer. It's enough things to do around here, and I want to buy a big old Astro van, like the A-Team used to have,
Mm-hmm.
and just be pop driving my grandbabies around everywhere. That's what I want to do.
You gonna wear the gold chains?
Everything. The little Kango hat. I'm gonna be the coolest. I'm gonna be a good looking grandfather too. So yo,
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna be out there. You know what I mean? So, but that keeps me going.
Don't forget to get a fire pit for the backyard. Because my husband and I got married over 8 years ago, and we just now pulled out the fire pit we got as a wedding present.
Ooh, I
We
bet
have
you
a
that
little
is.
tiny yard. I mean, we have a house, but the yards around here are small. But we pulled it out anyway, and the kids had a great time making marshmallows and s'mores.
I'm gonna add that to my to-do list. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
When I was in Okinawa, dreaming of what my house would be one day, I pictured the fire pit. And so when I got engaged, I wrote it on our registry.
And somebody got it. There you go. That's what's up.
This is how dreams happen. You get other people to pay for the stuff.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, yo. Amazon makes it so easy now.
So is there any other comments you want to say before we stop the recording? Any other gems of wisdom?
I will say this. I think when dealing with somebody, this is very important to me. When dealing with somebody that you feel might be suicidal, right? That might be dealing with a battle, overwhelming battle with depression or suicidal thoughts. I think it's important that we understand that we cannot fix them, that we cannot fix problems. That even if, say, like for you, whatever, for example, like if you're a therapist, a counselor, and you're dealing with somebody in your family, for example, like at that point, your role is not to be a counselor or a therapist. Your role is to be a sister or a mom or a friend or whatever it is. Make sure that we get people to the help that they need, the professional help they need,
right? And
that we play our role. I think a lot of times we freak out and we try to solve the problems for them, thinking that it's gonna, if my best friend comes to me because he's feeling suicidal because he's $10,000 in debt and I got $12,000 in the bank, I'm gonna just go ahead and pay his debt up and okay, we're fine. Now, no, they're not good. Okay, you can still be a friend and help out, but we have to understand that when it comes to suicidal ideation, these people need professional help. When people get to the point that they're feeling suicidal, let's make sure that we do our due diligence and take them to get the help they need and not try to be some type of superheroes and figure it out for them. I think that's very important and something that subconsciously we do in trying to help our friends. Sometimes we can harm them more than help them if we don't understand that little piece. That's my little nugget.
That's excellent, because I have some people that will stay with people overnight.
No, that's not healthy. You can't.
Yeah, like if you're in the desert, sure, you might not have a choice. Like if you're deployed or
right.
in the middle of nowhere. But around here, there's no need of that. You're hurting yourself too. You're burning out.
Yep. And again, I get it because it's something that you want to be a friend. You want to be a good friend, and that's all you know at the time. But we got to understand that now it's compared to doing CPR on somebody.
Right.
At some point, you can't do CPR for 24 hours. Ooh. They're not gonna survive that, bro. No. You know what I mean? You gotta get them to the help they need. It's first aid. So you see somebody that's feeling suicidal, you think somebody,
So safety.
Yeah.
Pretend they're bleeding. Like if someone's bleeding
that's
out,
it.
You're not
that's what it is.
Would cover the wound.
Correct. So get them to the help they need. There's definitely a role for you to play in their recovery, in their process and everything. but let's make sure that professional help gets involved once they get to that point, you know? Yep, that's it. That's all I gotta say.
All right. So thank you so much for being here this evening. I know I probably kept you a long time, but I think it's a really important message to share with people. So thank you.
It was my pleasure. Anytime you can have me here, 11:30 at night. Oh, yeah, it is late. But I'm good. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.